Hello my friends, family, esteemed colleagues. As promised, this episode about natural health is going to be about genetic realignment. Why don't we say misalignment first? Because we are all misaligned and we have to realign back to original genetic expression. If you have watched any of my videos on topic of carbohydrates, you know right away the only thing that is going to misalign genetically our body is going to be starch, glucose that we bring from through digestive system, because this does it to animals. Starch is always separated from the animal digestive system by being placed in cellulose. And no animal, especially mammals, but some worms can, some bacteria can, but basically animals cannot digest cellulose, and the reason is so they don't become genetically misaligned. Now this may sound something terrible, being misaligned, and actually it is. And I will now explain why. I have mentioned that plants in general defend themselves from being eaten by producing toxins, but toxins may affect us badly, show us symptoms, and you cleanse them out and no big deal. But when genetic reprogramming occurs, well, this is a bit more problematic, and of course, it also takes more time, because a plant will warn you with a toxin, you feel bad, you don't eat it anymore. But glucose is not going to warn you. Starch is not going to warn you, because our bodies, an animal body, is programmed to use glucose also as a fuel in extreme situations when it has to fight for life. And this is why we do have glycogen as a reserve of this fuel, which is only in those cells that need it for emergency. And when you're dealing with emergency, saving your life, well, number one, first you have to very quickly come to solution. So the brain will have glycogen, and then you need to have an extra power to execute it. So this way you have also glycogen in the muscles. Now, in a case all this will take longer than a couple minutes of dealing with the situation, you have a bigger amount of glycogen in the liver, which will then liver release as a glucose under influence of a stress hormone, and flood the blood with it. As soon as sugar blood level rises to the trigger point, insulin gets released, so the cells are forced to absorb it, because we are not meant to be absorbing glucose into the cell for purpose of using it for fuel. This is why the sugar has to rise over the, I call it radar level, to trigger, to flip the switch for insulin release. And this all of a sudden release of high, or how can all of a sudden blood sugar rise so quickly? Well, only if it is released from the liver. Now, when we are when we are eating incorrectly and we strip the starch of the cellulose, which we do by processing or by heating, because heat will burst it, and then we eat stuff like this, talking about flour and talking about baked goods when you heat plants, well, you have burst the cellulose or you have smashed it, and now you have starch coming into your system. Yeah, but still, your body will not accept it because nothing goes into the blood from the gut by itself except water and minerals. Everything else has to have absorptive mechanism, transporting mechanism, and we know for glucose or sugars in general, it is called GLUT. Now, since we are not supposed to receive glucose from digestive system, we don't have much GLUT. Originally, GLUT level is very small within the cells, and they release GLUT when they need to get some molecule of sugar to use the carboxyl group for making proteins, amino acids. Well, since we don't have much GLUT, when you give a baby, when you wind it off breast and you start giving it starches, well, baby cannot absorb them, and they do what starches do. They start falling apart, creating also alcohol, fermenting, and what is happening? They blow up, they cause diarrhea, children have hard time, stomach hurts, they have diarrhea. So we say, okay, you see, you have to wind the baby slowly. While you're not winding it, you are actually poisoning it with intent to shift the genetics. Because as I have explained, genes are our doctors, and they adjust the body so it can survive when the environment changes. And by feeding it incorrectly, starch, well, you are forcing now genetic alteration. And it doesn't happen quickly, so you have to go slowly with the baby. And now they're using the trick by giving you baby formula that has glucose in it. So this is intentionally being made. Now doctors don't get it because we are not suspecting that we are being misguided. We think that we are learning the truth. So what happens is that we are changing the genetics, the genetic expression. I have explained before in the video that you can adjust the body to tolerate cyanide. If you start very slowly with small amounts and slowly increase, body is going to find a way, adjust in such a way that it is not going to react, because it closes the cells, does what is necessary to adapt. We can adapt a variety of poisons if we are going slowly about it. Same as we can adapt to high heat or very cold temperatures. So what actually happens when we start eating the starches? I call them dietary starches because they are ready for digestion, because they are stripped of cellulose. Now many people say, well, honey has glucose. Not in my book, because honey comes from nectar. Plant gives you nectar to attract animal for pollination. It is not allowed to poison them, so nectar is basically fructose, pure fructose. And this is what bees use to make honey. So again, honey is for animals or food for other bees. So it's definitely not glucose. So when we start offering glucose, what happens is that genetically we start shifting to tolerate it. One of the genetic changes that we can see is that body will have to start, because it's burning, it depends on burning glucose, it will have to hydrolyze it first, which plants do. When glucose comes into mitochondria, it has to be hydrolyzed first. This is why plants are producing glycosid hydrolase, which is enzyme, which we don't produce, animals don't produce. But once when we start eating incorrectly and increasing amount of starches, that we start depend on starches, because what happened is that starches burn faster. It's not that starch has more energy packed than fat. No, fat is has more than twice of the energy, simply by molecule, because fat does not contain anything in it than carbon and hydrogen. Yes, it has a protein group on the very top of it, but this doesn't get digested, this doesn't transform. The chain is where the hydrogen comes. And I said hydrogen is what we in physics call electron. It's energy. And fat, saturated fat, means every carbon is saturated with hydrogen. In sugar, you have hydrogen and oxygen. So where oxygen comes, well, you can replace one oxygen with two hydrogens. So you are going to have way more hydrogen in saturated fat than you will have it in glucose or in protein. But protein doesn't get converted. It cannot be used as a fuel. Mitochondria can only use glucose, no other sugar, only glucose or fat, nothing else. And every animal should run on fat. This is why we store it. This is why every animal gets fat when you feed it well, because you give more energy than it needs and it stores it in a form of fat so it can use it when food is scarce. We don't store sugar, glucose, we have no room where to store it, although many people are mistakenly calling a glycogen animal glucose, animal carbohydrate. It's another same purpose. Well, yeah, booster fuel, but only for special occasions or when stress hormone is released. So first what happens, since body can use glucose, if glucose becomes regularly available in the intestine, the first adaptation is going to be, wow, let's make more GLUT so we can get this glucose in. Let's not waste the fuel. And this is exactly what is going to happen. The GLUT is going to be rising. More GLUT there is, more glucose will be absorbed every time you have a meal. People with low GLUT, they can have a whole cake and the sugar jumps, blood sugar jumps just a little bit. Some people can have crust of a bread, little piece, and the sugar jumps all the way to the roof, because those people have produced a lot of GLUT. And it's like having hundreds of trucks ready. So whatever Sugar comes, phew, loaded truck, put it in the blood, new truck. And how do you increase GLUT? More frequently, you eat carbohydrate. Not only a lot, but more frequently. It's even worse. Because if you eat a lot in one sitting, well, you only have few trucks. You only have few GLUTs. They get filled, choop, they go in. Glucose is not going to sit in the small intestine waiting. It's being pushed. And as soon as it gets down the track, it cannot be absorbed anymore. It only absorbs in the upper part of small intestine. So finally, when it gets into colon, there it sits. Now it ferments because you will have bacteria assisting you to break things down for you correctly. But part of this is going to be also fermentation process, which is going to create alcohol, which closes the cells of colon for absorption, and you get diarrhea to shoot this out. So if you do not eat often, if you don't snack in between, but you have, let's say, one carbohydrate meal a day, you are not going to be increasing the GLUT quickly. Very, very slow. Your body will have to stay in ketosis most of the time because simply the fuel is not available. Glucose will not be available other times than only when you eat. And if you eat once a day, well, after half hour, this is all done. And now, if the cell needs more fuel, they will have to be accepting fatted triglyceride that comes, and it is fueling up the cells. So, if you eat 1-2 meals a day with glucose in them, with carbohydrates, you are not in such a bad situation as you would be if you eat much less, but you pick in between, because it's constant presence. It keeps coming, and body goes, "Ooh, I can trap this." So it starts producing more trucks and grabbing it. Because what is the sense to make a lot of trucks if you only have carbohydrate once a day? And even if a lot will be brought in, your body cannot deal with it. So, body will still be running pretty much on ketosis. As the GLUT level increases, all of a sudden, every time you have a meal, sorry for my dogs, every time you have a meal, and there is a starch in there, you will be taking in much larger amounts of glucose, raising blood level of sugar. So what is going to happen? When all of a sudden you are taking so much that your blood sugar jumps over 100, we say, oh, you are pre-diabetic. Now we think, oh, something wrong with insulin. Nothing wrong with insulin. It is your absorption has increased dramatically because you are producing a lot of GLUT. You are picking too much. And even if you have 3 meals a day with some glucose, normally it may take 40 years before you start going into pre-diabetic state. And all you have to do in that state, stop eating starches. True, pre-diabetic state is gone because there is nothing wrong with your processing and how the body works. It's no big deal. But once when you have such a high absorption, every time you eat a little bit of something, your blood sugar jumps, and Now it's go over 100, 120, 130. No, pre-diabetic. No, you are already in diabetic state. Every time blood sugar goes over 100, you are diabetic, which means high blood sugar. Sugar should be between 70 and 90. Should never go over 90. If it goes over 90, this is absorption. This is what's coming, or you are in a stress. Of course, more glut you produce, more you are going to be absorbing, and then it comes to the point that, especially when you eat 3 meals, now the expert says, no, we should eat more than 3 meals so the brain is properly being supplied by energy. Of course, when you are on glucose, well, this is correct. Yeah, it will be, you will have more steady energy flow, but this is terrible for buildup of glut. And what happens is that every time the cells are forced to take in glucose, they don't know what to do with it other than now burn it for energy, to make energy from it. And to do that, they need to hydrolyze it. So they start producing what plants normally produce, glycosid hydrolase. But because we know that animals don't produce this, so we just gave it a different name. It's called nagalase. Nothing to do with hydroxyglycolase. But it's exactly the same thing. And we are producing it because we are no longer in ketogenic state. We have entered glucoholic state. Because now we are running ourselves on glucose. But since glucose is not readily available only when you eat or when you're in stress, so there is time between meals, closer to the next meal you are getting. The more tired you feel, you cannot concentrate, you start looking at the watch, okay, when is lunchtime? Because your body is sending fat. But since you are burning glucose much faster, because glucose turns into energy in mitochondria by itself, because there's oxygen already there. This is why it's food for plants. Plants don't need lungs, because it's done anaerobically. Same like now, we are going into anaerobic, but mitochondria of animals have an oxygen pump. So they are shooting oxygen into the process, no matter what you are burning. Because they are supposed to be burning and using fat. And to be able to separate hydrogen from carbon, you have to fill the hydrogen spaces. So you fill them with oxygen. You pump in oxygen, the chain releases hydrogen and grabs onto oxygen, producing carbon dioxide. And then you have to take more, you cannot produce more carbon dioxide until oxygen comes. So when oxygen comes, it disperses carbon dioxide, replaces with oxygen, and this oxygen is again used for this revolution, for the process to happen. Everything goes off the wagon when carbohydrate comes, when glucose comes in. Because glucose can do it by itself, doesn't need the oxygen. When oxygen comes, you have a fire already burning, you put oxygen, you have explosion. And this is why glucose is explosive fuel that gives us a lot of energy. And we should be having like 2,000 mitochondria per cell, because this is how much you need to make enough energy when you are in ketosis, when you are using fat, because it's a slower process. But now when you pop in glucose, 2,000 mitochondria produce so much energy that you start shaking. You gotta use this energy. And this is why This process is meant to happen only when you are in a stressful situation to save your tush. So, since we are giving regularly carbohydrate, and it doesn't come all of a sudden in big amount, it is slowly increasing, because as you are making more and more gluten, more and more sugar is being pumped in, and your body is slowly starting to depend on this fuel. And instead of 2000 mitochondria, we'll have 500 mitochondria. And this is why, yes, you will still be able to make energy from fat, but 500 mitochondria, you are about 1500 mitochondria short to make proper amount of energy. So you cannot really function correctly, especially brain cannot function on this. So whenever you give it sugar, it spurs up and you are feeling great. And then when there is too long between meals and you are forced to work, then you go into crisis. You start releasing steroids, corticosteroid. You are in a stress. This way you get into glycogen, so you get some fuel, but what does hormone do for you? Stress hormones? No, they make you aggressive. And this is what you get. We call it then bipolarity. Nice guy turns into bad guy. Just because of diet. You switch diet. So this is the misalignment on genetic level. And this is one of the parts. So your mitochondria drops, so you can not produce enough energy to feel good during the day, only when you have your meals. And on the other side, you are now producing what you are not supposed to produce, which is nagalase. So the gene, what was this gene that is producing nagalase now? What was this gene involved into when the different frequencies of fuel was there? Remember, it's all about frequency. So before was frequency of fat, but now you are pumping in frequency of glucose. Changes expression of genes. And now instead of now, because it's producing nagalase, glycosylhydrolase, now it starts producing this thing here, which I cannot say because my videos get banned. Okay, it's a marker that we should have in our body, in our cells, which is necessary to mark biological dead elements, being it garbage, cellular garbage, or even after proliferation, the cell that now is basically dead because it only has garbage in it, should be labeled, and then macrophage, white blood cell, sees the label, there's garbage, and munches it up, gets it out of the way. Same also happens if you have injury and some tissue went into necrotic state. Well, again, this is supposed to be marked, labeled with the same agent, same protein marker, and then macrophage goes there and chumps it up. So, no problem. This is why animals in nature can have big wounds and they don't have any sepsis, they don't have any necrotic stuff happening, because they produce this substance. It's labeling all the bad decaying parts, And white blood cells are going to attack it, and also you will have then bigger production of white blood cells. Because again, frequency changes, genes are alerting, they are your doctors. And you start producing more white blood cells because you have a big problem with breaking up of some tissue. No big deal. It's all going to be labeled, and your white blood cells number will increase, and take care of it. Now, pushers of supplements, they have no clue how the body works. And this goes for doctors as well. So they're looking and they see if you give the body chocolate, cacao, the body starts producing more stem cells. Okay, we found a cure. We are going to make a lot of stem cells. Eat chocolate, eat chocolate. This is going to be good for you because your body will be repairing itself. Well, we always have to understand that the body is perfect, designed robot, self-sustainable. It cleanses itself, it heals itself, repairs itself, everything. So we always have to think, if body is producing something more than otherwise, we always have stem cells. But if all of a sudden you eat something and you are producing more stem cells, why is body doing it? What are stem cells for? Stem cells are created to replace any cell in your body. If your body is producing more than the usual amount, which means something terrible is happening in a body that is going to kill or is killing your cells, then replacement has to be made. This is why body is producing extra. But no, chocolate is healthy. You have to eat it. This is why coffee is healthy. All this crap that is bad for us. But because we see something improved in our view, it's improvement because more is better. Not always. We always think, okay, you see, there's benefits for the body. No, it's not, you schmucks. The body is finding solution to your poisoning. And as you are poisoning yourself, body is already starting to prepare to fix the damage that you are creating by eating toxic crap. We just have to understand the body a little better. So, many things happen in a body when we are doing the wrong stuff. Because body, if you put wrong fuel in your car, you have to go to mechanic. And if you cannot get better fuel, it's a crappy fuel, then your mechanic has to adjust your timing on the engine so the engine does the best it can in given circumstance. Well, we don't have to go to doctor because doctor don't know jackly squat because we have been misguided. We have genes. Genes are perfectly programmed to take care of the body no matter what circumstance it is exposed to. Given it is put slowly into that circumstance, so genetically we have time to adjust. This is called adaptation. You adapt to these things, not that they are good for you, but you adapt to them. Every time you adapt to something that is not normal, you are taking your body out of alignment because it has to adapt to something that is unnatural. First time you have a coffee, it's awful. You think, who drinks this bitter garbage? But because everybody drinks it and they enjoy it, so, okay, give me coffee, but here, give me sugar, and now pour a little bit coffee over the sugar. So, and then you get little by little bit, your body genetically aligns and it can use it. Now, people drink coffee, they live on coffee. And they say, well, see, it's not, I cannot function without coffee, I need coffee. Well, you cannot function because it has changed your body on a genetic level. Now, once when you run this way, if you want to give up coffee, well, you get headaches, you cannot sleep, you cannot function. Why? Because the body has to now switch the other way. But whenever body is adjusting to something that is not good for you, it is suffering. And of course, we have been built to live minimum 600 years. Bible tells us Methuselah lived 900 years. Enoch never died. He ascended. We can all do the same thing, but not when we are misguided from get-go. We don't even know how this robot works. We have great mechanics, we have doctors that know everything except how to feed the body and how to hydrate it, which is the most important stuff. Doesn't matter how good mechanic you are, how well you know every detail of your car, you are not going to win car race unless you are a good driver and you know exactly how to drive, what fuel to put, what oil to use, and how to drive. Unfortunately, doctors have no clue because they even put wrong fuel in their own body. So how can they help you? We should be in ketogenic state all the time. Babies are in ketogenic state as long as they are on breast milk. And they go off only because we start feeding them starch. So, starch will create huge problems, but their body adjusts to them. So, we don't even know how badly we are being affected. We adjust. Of course, worse you are attacked, more poisons you are exposed to. Not only that your life gets shorter, but it gets also problematic because body has to cleanse. And it would cleanse no matter what you throw at it. And you would age slower. Even drinking coffee and eating garbage, if you would hydrate, because body is going to eliminate the toxins, and on a cellular level, it's going to be much slower aging process because your blood is going to be cleansed all the time. So every time there is a little interval when there is no toxin in the blood, your cells will open membrane and take a sip, rinse, and dehydration on cellular level is going to be much, much slower. But those that control us, they know this thing. And they made what is the most important thing for us to be able to cleanse. They made it sound like it's the worst poison. And we are talking here about salt, about minerals. So every time you urinate, I explained it in a previous video about hydration, you are losing blood plasma. Urine is your blood plasma. Sweat is your blood plasma. They are all salty. You lose minerals. You have to replenish them. But we are being told by experts, no. So And this is where we go into dehydration. When you're dehydrated, your body cannot cleanse. Cleanse is, very low limit. And we keep building up the toxins. So cleansing hydration is extremely important. But here on this video, we have basically zeroed on the problems of genetic adaptation. And now how do we help the body after years of body being in ketogenic state? Every analysis, blood analysis, is based on ketogenic, on a glucoholic body, because nobody is in the ketogenic state. Well, very few now, because they start realizing that eating meat is good. But if you eat a lot of meat and have side dish of French fries, mashed potato, or maybe crabs after dinner, you are maintaining the high sugar absorption and you are not increasing enough amount of mitochondria in the cell. And on the other side also, you are not going to be producing the blood marker that shows the body what it has to eliminate. And you will be producing nagalase, glycosid hydrolase. So to reverse the situation, you have to completely stop eating cooked and processed plants. Completely. So there is no starch, dietary starch available. Because, again, often I hear, Darko, you're talking no starches and then you put banana in your shake. Well, fruits and vegetables and plants, if you eat them raw, you cannot break the cellulose. So you are not capable to extract the starch. It just goes through your system. Maybe you have some fermentation in the colon, but colon does not absorb sugar, just plasma, water and minerals. So whatever there was changed, fermented, is going to go out with excrement. And we don't eat our excrement. But dogs will find it nourishing because, yeah, they get way more energy eating our excrement, or people who are glucoholics, than we do by eating the plant. And needless to say, you are eating stuff that you are not designed to digest. We have small acidic stomach. You cannot ferment in acidic stomach. Of course, you are not producing the acid if you do not eat animal protein. So you can make the stomach well alkaline, or at least neutral. And what happens then? Well, you can find bacteria there. But because you are eating toxic food, you are going to have problem with inflammations. And then you are going to have problem also with ulcer, which happens to be part of the problem when you eat incorrectly. And since, doctors have no clue why is there, then they are looking for culprit, and they find your gut bacteria in a stomach. Usually it's the Helicobacter pylori. And they say, oh, this is the culprit. Well, how come it doesn't make the problem in intestines, where normally we have it, but makes a problem in stomach because you found five bacteria in there? finding the bacteria in the stomach, it just tells you that you are not properly genetically aligned. Your stomach is way, way, way too alkaline. It should be boiling the bacteria. It should be with acid. It should be turning it into amino acids and fatty acids and becoming your food. But it doesn't do it because we eat incorrectly. And we do the same thing then by eating incorrectly. The same thing happens in our intestine. Since we cannot get the nourishment from what we ate, well, the body starts producing bacteria, again, related to the frequency that can deal with the frequency that we have brought in our gut. And this bacteria starts breaking down the food, creating gas, bad odors. But some of the food will be absorbed. Very small amount, negligible. But some of the food may be absorbed into the blood. As far as glucose goes, none, because we cannot go over the cellulose. Even the stomach acid, you not produce enough of it to do any damage. Because when you are eating plants, especially green salads and stuff, you are not producing stomach acid because body is perfectly made machine and it will not produce acid if not necessary. It produces acid only when you eat correctly, when you eat animal products. Meat, fat, eggs, dairy. So, you're eating correctly, you are going to have the wrong gut flora. And now we say, oh, diversity, diversity, better diversity. Oh, you know, the gut bacteria, they are going to, your immune system, 70% of your immune system is your gut. Now, what moron said it first so that parrots can repeat? This is totally untrue because the only immune system that we have is the immunity of shifting the frequency. And this is voltage. There is no other immune system. All these immunoglobulins and whatever, this is nonsense. This is our body's adjusting process. We are adjusting to tolerate this garbage. So, again, we have to understand body in completely different way than supplement. Guys are getting fat on people buying all these probiotics. Prebiotics, probiotics, postbiotics even. It's all garbage. You pay a lot of money for, and you receive zero benefits from. Unless maybe a little bit from wishful thinking, placebo effect. The only benefit you may get if the correct probiotic is pushed with its own environment. Because when you take just probiotic, it comes into environment which is not suitable for it, it dies, or it converts into, again, they also have genes, goes into adjustment to that particular environment. So you don't have any benefits from it. But you will have benefits if you bring the good one. Those are all lactic ones, lactobacillus. But then you push them in the body with its own environment, which is pushed usually with yogurt. So they sell yogurt and they put big name, oh, those are probiotic. It's a natural yogurt. What are you talking about? Yeah, but they charge you more because it says probiotic. We are being brainwashed. We are being used and abused on every corner. Now we have a big thing, you know, there are so many truth channels which don't want to advertise pharma. So they don't advertise any pharma. But they are full of these healthy alternatives based on plants, supplements. How come that these supplement guys are so rich that they can finance all these? It's nothing more than pharma changing their name. You're not getting any benefits. People say, oh yeah, these mushrooms, and you know, my dog can jump now. Well, it is also receiving medicinal stuff to maybe cut the pain out a little bit. Beautiful. But you can achieve the same way if you go into pharmaceuticals. The only proper treatment is correcting the diet. So instead of giving your animals these probiotics for animals and the supplements and the mushrooms and the stuff, you correct their diet, you don't need to do anything. You just correct the diet. My friend's cat, 12 years old. He found it flickering eyes and seizure. They right away go to animal hospital. They love me. They even watch my videos. But when it comes to their cat, vet. So they take it to the vet. Lot of uric acid, lot of urea in the blood. Oh, kidneys don't function. I told them before when I saw them in their house and I saw how they feed them, the animals, dry food, excellent quality, very expensive meat, just dry. Well, they don't drink enough. So all their cats are very slim. They're dehydrated. I pointed to that they have to give water with some salt in it and put some salt in the food so they feel the thirst that they need to drink. Well, obviously they didn't listen. So vet says, oh, kidney is bad, but of course also they found big mess. The cat didn't defecate maybe a month. It was all stuffed. So they start intravenous and yeah, cats start eliminating. So they are happy taking a cat home. They feed the cat, but again, cat is on the floor. Run to different vet. Now different vet says, no, it's not kidney, it's a liver. Look, these enzymes, well, this is all body is adjusting to the situation. Culprit is incorrect diet related to severe dehydration, and the only way out is now to have the cat on intravenous and keep filling it because it doesn't want to drink. So keep filling it, don't give her any food, just fill it to start eliminating, and everything is going to readjust. But it can all be avoided if you just eat correctly and feed the animals correctly. Animals have to stay in ketogenic state. We have to be in ketogenic state. We can have milk and dairy. There are, again, schmoes and moes that talk about, oh no, If we would be meant to drink milk as grown-ups, we would drink, an animal, grown animal would drink. Well, try bull. Let's try to suck a cow. The cow is going to kick his head off, okay? Because they don't want to be molested. The animals stop producing milk when first they start running away from the small young animal, because it starts hurting. They are getting teeth and they start injuring the tit, and mother says, okay, enough, and starts going away, and the less it nurses, the less milk is being produced. Again, it's just a process. Same with human mothers. When baby has a teeth, it starts napping on a nipple. It becomes painful. And this is the time, still grow up, to start pushing away baby slowly and give it solid food, but not starches. Give it processed meat. Normally, we would chew it for them and then give them, so they slowly start eating that stuff. But this is what animals do. Or you have processors. You can process the meat, chop it small pieces with fat in it, and give it. But then you have to start also giving water, and preferably with a little bit of salt. And no problem. No problem weaning child off the breast. No diarrhea, no vomiting, no crying, no bloating, nothing. Yeah, but did anyone tell us this before? No? So, whole life, we are sitting on two chairs at the same time. This is why it's never comfortable, and we have a mountain of problems. We have to put body on correct track, which means we have to activate the right genes. How do we do it? By feeding the body correctly. Stop giving it plants. And body immediately starts switching into ketogenic. If you want fast change, fast. Don't eat anything. Then just drink plasma. Don't go dry fasting, because it's dangerous, especially if you are toxic. If your blood is toxic, you can die. So don't go there. You can drink plasma, no problem. And you will be cleansing. You cleanse your intestines, you start cleansing your blood, you start cleansing your cells. And if 2 days, 48 hours, no glucose comes from digestive tract into the blood, the body starts activating more mitochondria so it can produce enough energy. And the third day, 72 hours later, you have 2,000 mitochondria per cell running. They say, oh, activate mitochondria. You do this and this and that. Bollocks. You don't do nothing. You just stop poisoning yourself. Start eating correctly. And, of course, don't eat anything, because you have some stores of fat in the body. And your body will quickly reshuffle genetically and correct its expression. Stop producing the nagalase, the glycosidehydrolase, and starts producing this thing. And you start healing. Simple. No medicine. There is no such a thing, there is no such a medicine that is going to heal your cell or heal your body. they all work as a toxin to alleviate certain symptoms while poisoning the rest of the body. So yeah, you can use medicinal remedy when necessary to combat the pain, to force diuretic effect. Yeah, you can use them temporarily, but you have to know why and how are you using them, and then stop. Let the body do its job on realignment. Same mistake we do when we start putting artificial hormones. Many people, when they start getting lethargic and out of shape and problem sleeping and getting fat or getting skinny, doesn't matter, one or the other, they are then pronounced, oh, you have a problem with your thyroid. You have either hypo or hypothyroidism. You don't have any of this. Your blood is toxic, your body is toxic. Energy doesn't flow well. And body is adjusting itself to survive in this situation. So of course, part of the adjustment is done through expression of hormones. So the values are changing. It's not a problem with thyroid gland. It is a problem of toxicity. Once when you start receiving the hormone from outside, now your body does not know which way to go. It has the hormone, doesn't have to produce it. But then uses what was there, and now goes, okay, so how come I don't have fruit? So it has to produce it. So now you are shifting back and forth. And this is especially occurring very intensely when you start cleansing, because body is becoming cleaner and cleaner, less and less toxin. You are genetically aligning, but then you are still giving the hormone, and body produces it naturally. So now starts producing, but hormone comes from the other way, and body goes, whoops, starts producing it. But now this wears off, and body goes, well, how come it's not there? Okay, so starts to produce it, and you have these jumps, ups and downs. Stop medicating yourself. My friend in Croatia, terrible shape, and she complains that she has a problem with her anger, and she is medicated to be calmer, and she has these suicidal tendencies. So I told her, no, it's just start eating correctly and start hydrating. And then she sent me a picture. Darko, I'm in a park, I'm enjoying park, it's great. And next day, you almost killed me. I almost killed myself. I got such an attack of necessity to kill myself. No, I'm guilty. I said, what happened? Well, my energy went down. And I know this happens because I didn't take my hormone for thyroid, and then I could not sleep. I know it's because I need the sleeping pill, which is the neurosuppressor. The biggest cause of suicidal tendencies are neurotropic hormones or medicines that suppress activity of brain. She was healing, the body, everything started getting clearer, and now you put poison that gives you suicidal tendencies. So this goes like on a turbo. And I told her, don't do this. No, I'm a bad guy. I almost killed her. So, sorry, but some people just cannot be helped. I know it's difficult because we are being always told the wrong thing, and whenever you look, it's always the same thing, and now some schmuck tells you, no, don't do this, do this, and you will see. How can you believe anything this schmuck says, when everybody else says otherwise? Well, this is why it takes so much time making these videos and writing the articles and showing and explaining how the body works and what is going to happen. So do it, but do it correctly. And if you are guided, listen to the guidance. Don't make your choices in between. Well, my friends, I think that this is it for this video. As I've explained, our body does all the calibration, especially the genetic one, and to realign body properly genetically, all we have to do is stop eating, go fasting, but wet fasting, fast with plasma, not water. So this way you are not going to be even hungry, and you will be flushing, and you start producing enough energy as your mitochondria goes up. Remember, there is no diet or specific thing you have to do to increase mitochondria. You just stop poisoning yourself with glucose. This is what will activate mitochondria, because your body will be in need of more energy, which now sugar doesn't come, so it will have to activate mitochondria to be able to produce more energy from fat. And this is naturally built process. This is why you have genes. They see that they get the vibration and they realign. Don't take supplements and drop medication. Some medications you may not be able to drop immediately, but there are some that you should never ever take. One of them is statins. Never ever, for no reason whatsoever. And another one that you should not be taking daily is anticoagulant, aspirin or whatever. And they are the most widely dispersed medications. And of course, blood pressure lowering mechanism, which is all based on either diuretic. Everyday diuretic makes no sense. It dehydrates you. Then you don't have enough plasma for cleansing. So, and you don't eat salt, so you cannot even replenish. So you are being kept dehydrated. And beta blockers that relax your blood vessels. All this is very bad for the body. Don't do that. You don't need any of it. It is good to be guided through the process. This is why if you are medicated, I always recommend you be guided. Otherwise, and if you are older and have many symptoms, health problems, you should be guided at least at the beginning of the Cell-Healers protocol. Younger people and not overly problematic, they can go to the protocol by themselves, follow it, and you will heal, guaranteed. And genetically realign, but you have to start eating correctly. Now we are being told, well, we are now changing. Our dormant DNA is being awakened, activated, because we are receiving from this activity of the sun, we are receiving activation codes for our dormant DNA. So we are shifting. Maybe things will change. well, not maybe, definitely will change. But so far, you will benefit eating animal products raw or as raw as you can. And in near future, we will be able to nourish ourselves differently and probably even live without the necessity of eating or drinking. We don't know what's going to happen, but right now we are still running on the old program, and this is how the program is aligned to work. We are not herbivores. When you eat raw fruits, raw banana, even raw potato, you have no access to starch because it is enveloped of cellulose. Unless you cook it or heat it to destroy it, it takes 55 degrees Celsius to burst the cellulose. So yes, you will access carbohydrates, dietary carbohydrates, if you boil or bake banana, or boil or bake potato, or boil or bake carrot. But as long as you eat them raw, you don't have access and you remain in ketogenic state no matter how many of these things you eat. Okay, and of course, milk and lactose. Lactose is not going to be absorbed. Lactose under influence of lactase is going to shift into fiber to give consistency to your stool. This is why babies have mushy stool and not water. But I wrote about this, there's a video about it, you can go and check it out. But at least now you know how easy it is to realign your body correctly, genetically, and even on level of mitochondria, and not to fall for the nonsense or eat chocolate because your body produces more stem cells, which means you will be healing. No, it produces stem cells because you are doing something terrible to the body, and body knows that it will need the stem cells to replace whatever you are destroying by eating the freaking chocolate. I did enough experimentation on cacao, and I'm losing hair, and I aged in 3 years more than in 20 years before, only because I start releasing now all these toxins that cacao gave me when I stopped eating cacao. Now body goes into detox and releases, and I'm so freaking toxic that it's not funny. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here and spreading the truth. Love you all. God bless us all. Namaste.